so we have a new... Hello. Testing. 1 and 2. Let me put our guest in here. All right, get rid of that. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you guys. Let's admit our guest here. Turn on that. Hey, good morning.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, all right. Just like that, huh?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Okay. Yeah, doing great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can you see us? Can you see us?
I sure can.
Okay,
All
great.
right,
And then let
perfect.
me test this to make sure. All right, hold on. I got one little button to hit here. And then we should be good to go. Thanks again for doing this, man. We're really excited.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
There we go. Yep, we got a one shot on. Okay, we're good, Tom.
Perfect. All right.
Let's not waste his time because I want to hear about this. All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Van, you start. Here we go. In 3, 2.
Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube, and you can join us. Just search for @TomandDanLive on all social media, and you could be in the chat room right now, and you could actually be seeing our guest live, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, don't forget our completely free beer fest happening November 22nd. It's the Bad Business Beer Fest. We start giving out sample cups at noon. Beer starts pouring at 2. We've got live music. We've got tons of vendors, food trucks, and free beers and seltzers and THC beverages.
Yeah, every beverage that alters you will be there.
Yeah,
and
you got to be 21, bring your ID.
Yep, bring your ID and bring your family, bring your pets, bring your grandma. It's a family-friendly event. It's always a really cool day, and the weather's going to be phenomenal.
Yep, and then the next day, Sofa and Suds, the Sanford Couch Races.
Yes.
That starts at 2, and Daniel and I will be hosting that as well.
Yep, we took the bed races from Key West. We made it better by making them sofas and putting it slap dab in the middle of downtown historic Sanford.
Let's get to our weird job.
Yes, sir. I got a weird job theme for him,
All
so
right.
here we go. This is a different one. This is kind of, maybe you can hear the theme
Okay.
and then go like, ooh, I think I might know what our guy does. All right, let's see if this thing works here.
Tom wanted to do a bit. He called it Weird Job Wednesday. Dad really likes it. Tom says that's bullsh. It's another Weird Job Wednesday. What are you doing? What is your job? Are you neat? Are you tidy? Or are you a fat slob? Do you make a lot of money and you sit up in your tower looking down on all the people who are working by the hour? It's a Weird Job Wednesday.
Oh, maybe he's a pirate. This person. Right? Maybe.
It's a pirate adjacent, I would
Is
say.
it pirate adjacent?
Yes, it's Weird Job Wednesday.
You make that just for me.
Thank you, Tom.
Honored.
All right, let's get it
All
out of
right.
here. All right, let's talk to our guest.
On Zoom with us right now is Captain Michael Perna. How you doing, Mike?
Very fine. Thank you very much. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh,
awesome.
Wow, that's really crazy, man.
Well, thank you very much.
I've always wanted to hear somebody say, I don't think that's ever been said on our show.
It's been said.
Not on our show. I don't think on our show we've ever had somebody say that.
They always say that.
how is not every caller say that? I mean, that's the
Well,
thing
we
to
don't really
say,
have
right?
call. I mean, sometimes we do, but they don't say that. They
Yeah, they're like
yeah.
just been listening for a day or so.
All right, I'm bringing it back. I'm
I've
bringing it
called
back.
3 times already.
Well, thank you so much for the time. And I guess, Tom, I mean, I guess, should we
Well-
just say, hey, man, what's your weird job?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and call him a treasure finder.
Treasure finder. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
So-
you are a professional treasure finder. Besides a captain, you're a treasure finder.
That is correct. Yes. The technical term is I am a historic shipwreck salver.
Whoa.
okay, so Mike, let's talk about how'd you get into this business to start, and then we'll work our way to the recent find because we watch you on the news.
Oh, man.
And I mean, this is the dream of mine, actually.
we must be like-
I think the dream of every kid that grew up in the '80s watching Goonies.
I will say and especially in Florida, if you were a little Florida boy like both me and Tom
Yeah,
are, like there's something about treasure finding or being like the whole Mel Fisher thing when I was a kid, or like even like Jacques Cousteau and like these people that would go out and like be doing some sort of discovery out in the ocean. I was like, well, that's what I want to be. I want to do that. So how did you get into it?
Yeah. Chasing your dream is always a thing, right? I mean, you guys are doing it in your own way with this radio show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now for me, I mean, same thing. Florida boy, grew up here, just right along the heart of the Treasure Coast, and yeah, it was just kind of something that always took place off our shore. And as I grew up, surfing, fishing, skating, growing up in this area, just decided to grab a metal detector one day after, like you said, watching Mel Fisher on TV. And I figured, yeah, I'm pretty good at almost anything. I could get out here with a metal detector. I'll be rich overnight. And that was a huge eye-opening thing because that was not the case at all. And so I figured, well, the hours and hours spent on the beach looking for treasures, I decided, well, the stuff's coming out of the water. Maybe I should get in the water. And so I got dive certified and then met somebody that worked on a boat, and just kind of natural progression, found myself, in the water diving for treasure. And then that kind of evolved into this passion for, working shipwrecks.
Did you specifically Tom and I are dive certified, but
Yeah.
I never thought.
I'm advanced, sir.
He is
You
advanced,
cannot call us equal.
he-
I have a advanced
But it's
Groupon.
it's advanced
At
Groupon.
ease.
Yeah, it's advanced Groupon, which I feel like makes us. And he's Patty, and I'm Nowie, so I feel like I get the edge on education. I get the edge.
Right on, yeah.
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 But,
no,
but
it's just as good.
you got your certification and specifically started hunting at what age do you remember when you first started doing
Yeah,
it?
so I was probably right around 18 and then
Wow.
landed on a boat around 20, basically.
So this is a life that's incredible. Also, I'd like to point out we do have a lot of lady listeners, and they are really being they find you very attractive, and they're not holding back in the chat room. Yeah.
Well, he's a
Women.
treasure-finding sea captain. What's not attractive about
Yeah,
that?
he's showing his ring now. So
Sorry,
okay.
women, sorry.
Yeah, hands off, ladies.
So Mike, let's just talk about the beginning of how you go about even finding the ocean's a big place. I don't know if anybody knew this.
Yeah. Write this down, folks. We're about to strap in.
So, and we've always heard all the amount of shipwrecks, and a lot of them are documented, some undocumented, and they're so we kind of know hey, this ship was carrying this much gold. It went out of this harbor, and that's all we know. And there's a hurricane around this time, and so how do you even start with the area of where to look?
Yeah, so for us, the Mel Fisher, saga and legacy was carried on into the modern day. So, in the 1960s, when people started with scuba diving, became popular, and they were finding coins on the beach, they wound up in the water, and they started to discover these shipwrecks. And, fast forward all these years later, the areas that they had discovered, we were basically still working those same sites. So as you mentioned, the ocean is a very large place. And these particular shipwrecks were very well documented. They went down in 1715 is the year that the fleet sank. There were 11 to 13 ships. We know 11 for sure. And one of them actually was far enough north that it made it beyond the winds of the hurricane and actually made it back to Spain. But yeah, guys like me today, the shipwrecks came in, they raging hurricane blasted onto the shoreline, exploded into bits. Their upper structure traveled for many, many miles, just dropping material along the ocean floor. And so the old timers worked all of the infield of the wreck areas where those main, where the wreck came ashore basically, and there'd be a ballast pile and dropped all its cannons and anchors and stuff like that. But when the upper decks broke apart and that stuff traveled for miles, it take lifetimes to chase those trails. So people like myself, just using modern search equipment, search electronics. Obviously, we have GPS now, which is a huge leg up they did not have back when, and we just kind of follow those breadcrumb trails of material, sometimes for miles, until we discover the next lick, basically. So that's kind of what's happened here this summer.
I'd like to kind of rewind a second something you said, because this is something that I've never thought about, and I don't think the average person who's envisioning a shipwreck thinks about this stuff. You think of a ship breaking apart like me, average non-treasure finder. You think, oh, the shipwreck there, all the treasures there. It's not. It's
Not at all.
It's a trail, maybe
of debris,
like an endless trail of debris that's and then it's falling,
and it gets pushed and scattered by storms
and by other currents. So this could be how long? Can you give me an idea of how long one of the trails would be?
Well, there was an account in 1715, weeks after the storm, of the governor of Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, having made an account that there was some flotsam that had washed up along their shore. So, you figure that's several hundred miles north to Virginia that material had traveled. I mean, there's nothing to stop it. But yeah, people think that it's like a shipwreck at the bottom of a fish tank or something. It's the Goonies. There's this whole thing. That is not the case at all. If you were actually to swim across one of these wreck sites, you wouldn't even know that you were on a wreck site as you look down at the ocean floor. There's nothing to see. The organic material, all the wood and stuff like that, has just been pounded to bits. And because we're so close to the shoreline, it's a high energy zone with the surf action and stuff. And there's it's just pounded all that stuff down into the sediment. And like you say, and then the currents over the next 300 years, all the hurricanes, everything, it's drug all that material all over the place. So yeah, it's not like you would imagine. It's very laborious. It's a lot of hard work, and for guys like us, it's a lot of not finding, and then the occasional little pocket of glory, we say.
Right.
So Mike, how much on the ocean searching do you do compared to in the ocean or underwater? How's that balance? Is a lot of the equipment searching for sonar, weird shapes above the ocean, then that's when you dive? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, so part of what we're doing out here, because there has been that 40, 50-year run of people working on these sites, they did a very good job back when keeping records of where they were finding stuff. And so we can use that as kind of a base map, so to speak, of where to then search from. So, for example, if we look at that map and we discover that someone has found a piece of silver or gold here and then a piece there, we can draw a line, and now we want to search over here, kind of thing. Sonar is definitely a piece of search electronics that is in our arsenal. But kind of like I mentioned, there's very few artifacts that actually stick out of the sand. And so the way that sonar works, it doesn't really penetrate subsurface. So, if there were something large sticking out of the sand, then sure, it would see it. But for these types of shipwrecks, again, because they've just been so decimated, the sonar is not rendered useless, but for actually identifying a target that we would want to go search. So the piece of search electronics that we use with remote sensing in particular is called a magnetometer. And that is I guess in layman's terms, it's basically a device that measures the magnetic field of the Earth. And so if you were to take something like a piece of iron and set it in front of the sensor, it would disrupt that, because iron is magnetic. And so it disrupts that. And so that sensor would sense that object.
That's
and
cool.
So on these old shipwrecks, there was a lot of iron in the way of cannons and anchors, and certainly muskets and pistols and swords and cannonballs and all of these types of things. And so the magnetometer will sense that. Of course, it won't sense any of the precious metal that we're searching for. So it's kind of an evil trick that God has played on us, that we can find all of this other, other type of material, but not exactly what we're looking for. But nevertheless, for searching in areas that are, what we would call out in the middle of nowhere, because they're so far from the main piles of the wrecks, this is kind of the best thing we have that eliminates, the entire ocean and gets us down into more of a narrow search field. And then we can really get down there with metal detectors and sift around and use our expertise and our methodology to sniff out those trails and stay on them. So
That's
it is
awesome.
like a real live treasure hunt for sure.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
So,
Like,
Yeah.
Mike, I'm curious with how much of your job is being an archaeologist as well as you're trying to find the precious metals, like you said, but you also come across a lot of
artifacts, right?
artifacts of stuff,
Yeah.
and you have to know what they are. And how much of your
And-
job is that?
Yeah, no, exactly. From doing it for many, many years, I can oftentimes just look at something and kind of see more or less the shape of it. But from laying in the ocean for several hundred years, iron especially encrusts, and so it'll just get like a very large concretion around it. And unless you have kind of a discerning eye from having done this with much experience, you would look at that and think, wow, it just looks like a rock, and never know that it's in fact a pistol or like a sword handle or something really
Oh.
cool like that. But yeah, that's just kind of experience and being in it. Oftentimes I tell, especially new people when they get in this, is learn your artifacts, just because once you become familiar with the items that were, in people's possessions in colonial times, then when you see something, you can kind of catch the shape of it. Or especially divers, there are artifacts out there like ballast stones that came from the shipwreck. Are you guys familiar with what a ballast stone would be?
No, explain it to me.
Well, I'm basically
Yeah.
a captain,
And-
Captain
and-
Mike.
well,
You could
you don't
actually
like
refer
this-
to me
well,
as
he
captain.
Also, he also doesn't like to say he doesn't know things,
And-
which is why you saw him go like, ah. Yeah, I'll
know-
just say I don't know.
I know what ballast stones are. They're
Okay,
ba-
well,
huh?
so
Oh,
at the
okay,
at the
you can
bottom
go.
of a sailing ship, yeah, well, I'll just tell you, at the bottom of a sailing ship, there, the mast sticks up real high and it's top heavy, right? So they put a bunch of weight down at the bottom of the ship, basically to keep the ship from flipping over in heavy winds or whatever. And so back when, they used just smooth, round river rocks, and those river rocks just made up literally the entire bottom of the hull of the ship just for added weight, and that's what they call ballast. Today in sailboats, when you see like the keel of a sailboat, it's actually completely full of lead. Most people don't know that, but that's what they use nowadays.
I didn't know that.
Anyways, the point of telling you all of that is that if a diver is out swimming around and doesn't know their artifacts per se, they could swim by what could potentially be a piece of a shipwreck,
Sure.
just in the way of those ballast stones laying on the ocean floor. So similarly, we just tell people, learn your artifacts so you can spot those types of things.
So I'm curious to, when you actually are scuba diving an area that you are searching, what is involved with, what are you exactly looking for? Is there? I've seen like video, and like we mentioned, Mel Fisher and like other treasure hunters. They sometimes employ giant vacuums that are sucking from the top of the ship, where the scuba divers essentially just sucking sand and air grid area. So then they're basically sifting it on the ship itself, and they have a crew doing that.
Collecting.
I've seen other treasure hunters turn their like these giant propellers essentially to blow water down at an area to blow the sand out, and then
Oh, wow.
essentially look that way. It's
Yeah.
kind of like if you ever go to the beach and you're using your hand to blow the sand away from a shell, like it
Yeah, yeah.
exposes underneath. So like, do you use any of those methods? Is it all just scuba divers looking by hand?
No, you nailed it. I mean, everything that is available to us, to get the job done is in the arsenal. So yeah, we would use any and all, methods that are what I would say legal and practical to go ahead and do what we do to search. So yeah, sometimes the material is relatively exposed or not under a lot of sand, and sometimes it's under a lot of sand, and it does require removing that sediment for sure.
Well, you're doing this, and you're doing it, obviously, like the archaeological aspect of this and the historical aspect of this, there's some ethics that go with it. So you're out there collecting things and you're finding this treasure, but do you ever have to deal with people that, because this is
this belongs this is Spain's gold.
I'm
It
sure
belongs in a Spanish museum.
I'm sure you deal with that, but like, what about like just rogue people that think this is a sexy thing to do, and they're like, well, I can just go out there. Do you ever have to deal with anybody just doing it like amateur hour style, or like, I guess, is that illegal, or like, how does that work? Because like, you guys are obviously in charge of an area, and that's your area, and you are licensed to do that, right?
Yeah, so that is part of my pitch here today is just to express to to everyone that everything that we're doing out here is 100% legal. And so the company, I'm actually a subcontractor, so I have my own boats and
Cool.
my own operation, but I do not hold the permits to do this. The company that does is called Queen's Jewels LLC,
Yep.
and they hold all of the admiralty rights from the pretty much carried over from the Mel Fisher days, and then we work on those areas as subcontractors. But you're absolutely right. There is a bunch of regulation and red tape that shrouds all of this, and if your average person were to go out into the water and do this, I mean, obviously, you're not going to get in trouble unless you get caught. But if you did, you find something and you report it or make that public, I mean, there's certainly a subject to being fined and arrested and all of this kind of stuff too.
Yeah,
Because there is
yeah.
a lot. Yeah. So with everything that we're doing is all very much above board.
So, Mike, what if me and Daniel took my boat out, and then we just
This is
followed
kind of what
you?
I was talking about. Yeah, this is kind of the scenario I was dreaming of.
We both got. I got
Yeah.
my scuba diving
I'll
equipment.
use your wife's gear.
Yeah, and then we go out there, we see where you're at, and then we're just like, we'll just get
Follow
like
him, follow
100
him.
yards away, and then me and
I think
Daniel,
he saw me. I think Captain Mike saw me.
we jump in there, and we're searching down there. We're like, this has got to be the area.
And this guy kicks up silt like a madman. Oh, he does not have a delicate flipper. He's big feet in it.
I have no gauges. It's all leaking. Anyways,
like pig pen down there.
so what happens if someone's on your area or in your area? Like, can you kick them out?
Like a hot dog cart. Hot dog carts have areas. If you're at the hot dog cart's area, you beat the other hot dog cart man up.
Well, if you go into someone,
that can get pretty competitive, right?
dude, you're allowed to shoot someone in Florida if they're stealing lobster from your traps.
Yeah,
that's
especially in
what I've
Publix.
heard.
In Publix, you can shoot them if they're stealing lobster from the back.
Yeah, no bueno is the short answer to that. Also, I would say that I would be glad to give you the GPS coordinates to the area that we were in because, without the high level of experience and the ability to do the work that we do, again, you basically stand no chance.
Yeah, we'd die.
I know what gold looks like. I've seen it.
We're in a tiny deck boat.
Live, but it's very difficult. So yeah, it's not as easy as just I'll go out there and the chances. I would say that if you did strap on a metal detector and gave it a shot and found something, it would just be an absolute stroke of luck. So, yeah.
Well, I'm a very lucky guy.
Yeah, and fantastic. Maybe I'll start following you around. And hey, if you're that lucky, just come with us.
Oh,
I'm joking.
We need more sea captains on our show.
Well,
this is making me laugh.
Well, here's the thing, Mike, is that everybody, and then let's get to the actual discovery that you guys just did, because everybody only sees that, and they don't see the 10,000 hours that you went out and just worked all day,
every day,
grueling work, all for nothing, you know, and then they only see the hit and the treasure find. So let's talk about you guys just stumbled across $1 million in gold and silver, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. We have a joke on the boat that, this is the kind of thing that they don't show in the treasure books because that's basically what we do. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. And then every once in a while we have these little pockets of glory. And, much like me being on your show now, everybody reminds us how great we are. But, the rest of the time we're kind of sucking mud for sure. Yeah, that's a real thing. With this particular find, it can get a little confusing. We have a 2-boat operation, and so I'm in charge of one of the boats, and then we put together another boat this summer, and a guy who's been diving with us, Levin Shavers, he's now the captain of that other boat, and then lo and behold, right out of the gate, third day out, he wound up kind of getting into, a silver coin, and then that led to another silver coin, which led to a few more silver coins, which by the end of the summer wound up being 1,051. And so on the other boat that I'm on, we wound up finding the 5 gold coins. So it's kind of a nice contrast and, the cherry on top of what was a fantastic summer for sure.
So Mike,
man.
when you hear that someone found the first silver coin, do you know immediately it's like, oh, we're on it, or it's somewhere near here, or could it just be a rogue and have you found one and none other ones before, or is like that one coin the start? It's the start of it.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. The ocean giveth and the ocean taketh away. I mean, whenever we're finding stuff, the faucet can turn off at any time. And yes, sometimes, if we just happen upon what would be a scattering of material, we may find one or two here and there, and then that could potentially lead to more singles, or then the next dump. With what Levin did this summer, and part of what makes it so unique and really awesome is that he just jumped right on the pile. So there was no chasing this breadcrumb trail to the end of the rainbow. I mean, he third day out, just boom, there it is. So that awesome.
It
Every
sounds
once in
a
while,
lot
you get grand slam.
This is for you because Tom loves gambling, and this is very much like it feels very gambling because I have this crazy imagination, right, Mike? So I'm envisioning a plank in the water, right? And on top of that plank is one silver coin. And this plank's just floating through the ocean or whatever, and then the coin and just dips to one side, then the coin just falls. You know what I mean? Like, and then you go, and then you guys are out there with your boats, and you're spending tens of thousands, millions of dollars, and you suck up one coin, and that's all that's there. And that's like, wow, that's wild. That's mind-blowing. Or 1,000, or it could be 1,000.
But just like gambling, and Mike knows, most people don't win. Most people don't find treasure, I imagine. And
is the ocean the house? Is that,
I think, the ocean always wins.
Here's the thing. It's to reference, or make the analogy, chasing your dreams, part of chasing your dreams, you have to be persistent. So if you really want to make something come to fruition, you just have to keep at it, and you will be successful, but you just have to keep going. But what I was going to say, what's fantastic about your mental image of the plank and the coin, part of what we're doing here, part of all of this is treasure really sparks the imagination and creativity, much like, astronauts, dinosaur bones, and firemen and stuff like this. This is one of those things. And so just having conversations about treasure, actually holding a piece of wreckage or coins in your hands from 300 years ago, the first thing that happens is your imagination ignites. And just like you did, I mean, you start imagining all of these really fantastic things, where this coin was in the past, the story, the travel it's been on, who held it last, and all of those things are just tremendously positive and good, so that's part of it for sure.
Well, Mike, let's talk about the actual treasure itself, because most of the quote-unquote treasure are coins and precious metals. Like is going back to the Goonies, like there's always the depiction of not only treasure chests of coins, but also like jewels and
usually
like
a lot of
crowns,
and then decorative swords.
But there's like diamonds involved, and I'm like, I don't think there was ever diamonds.
And then amulets. There's a lot of amulets in there.
There's no diamonds off the coast of Florida and in the Bahamas. Like diamonds are in Africa. Like anyway, so. That's what we're looking, just all precious metals, correct?
No. In fact,
get him, Mike.
I invite you to go check out some of the, any of the literature that you can find on it. But there's a really great website. It's a nonprofit. They're called the 1715 Fleet Society.
I'm on there right now.
Yeah, you can go on there, and every month they post a treasure of the month, and then they show different treasures that have come up out of the waters out here. But one of the most famous and magnificent and valuable emerald mines in the world is down in Colombia. And so after the original conquests, once they started mining these precious gems and stuff, absolutely they would put them in jewelry. They were sending them back to Spain in raw form to be made into jewelry there. So yeah, anything that you could imagine that would be on one of these ships is absolutely on one of these ships. And that was part of the lure of the New World to people in the old world back when, to kind of get them to risk their life and limb and cross the ocean, in the pursuit of potentially wealth or a better life. And yeah, there was a lot of really, really cool artifacts and things like that being.
What's one of the strangest things you've ever found, like personally?
Oh, yeah, I always try and arm myself with answers to these questions. I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, we find so many cool things. Strangest, I don't know. I guess I certainly would have to think about it. I
always like it when they find something that you don't think people had, like where they're like on the Titanic, and we found a chamber pot, and I'm like, somebody like years ago crapped in there, I'm like, that's wild,
A chamber pot.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something out there. It's not treasure, but
Well, since we're talking about things like that, They actually used to have, they call them Gleister pumps, and it was basically like a giant syringe that they would fill full of salt water and try
Okay.
and relieve constipation. So that I've never personally found one, but that is definitely a one of those types of
Oh, that's
artifacts.
my kind of treasure, Mike.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I'd like, you know what? A real man captain is talking about down there. He goes,
We got a whole bunch of old douchebags.
yeah, 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 yeah. But there's that kind of stuff too. Part of what we're doing, I mean, even as long as I've been doing it, I never ever stop learning. I mean, we're not only creating this treasure map in reverse, so to speak, by finding these artifacts and then putting their locations on the map, and that reveals kind of the footprint of what's happened to the wreck over time, after the sinking. But once we find an artifact exactly that, you look at it and you say, geez, what the heck is this thing? And then that causes everybody to do a bunch of research. This summer, in fact, one of the unique artifacts that we found that is featured on that 1715 Fleet Society page, there was a lead seal. Typically, lead seals back when were small. You could imagine something smaller than like a soda can, a bottle cap size.
Sure.
And it was just a little piece of lead that had like a decoration or an insignia on it. And that would be attached or affixed to, let's say, some textiles or, a bale of tobacco or something like that. And basically to give ownership, so you could track it and say, oh, this is so-and-so's bale of tobacco, basically,
Wow.
right? So this particular lead seal that we found, instead of being the size of a bottle cap, was about this big.
Wow.
Much larger. And when I first found it, I thought it was, I just felt it in my hand. I thought it might have been a gold disc. The visibility was kind of poor when we got it up to the boat and looked at it. We realized it was lead. Kind of disappointed it wasn't a gold bar or gold disc.
Sure,
I went
sure.
back down to finish checking. And when I came back, the guys are like, wow, there's markings on here. Check this out. Well, when we got it back to the lab and did some investigation, it turns out that actually was a picture of the king. And when we did some further research, we discovered that it was actually King Philip II. And so this particular artifact was something that was issued from the king, likely to somebody else that would have given them their nobility status or like land ownership. And so this would have been attached to like a bale of papers, but it would have been like the royal seal. So, anybody could have had a piece of paper that says, hey, I'm this noble person. But if you've got the royal seal that came straight from the king, well, then, yeah, that's definitely it. And, so something like that is something no one's ever seen out here on these sites and was unique. So,
That's
but
good.
we didn't know when we first found it that's what it was. We had to do the research.
That's a darn good example of what I was asking for. That's fantastic. Yeah,
So,
man.
Mike, I'm super curious to, okay, you find this treasure, and what's the first step? Do you have to report it to someone? Do you have to tell Spain or where this, like, you knew where the ships came from. Do you have to notify their government at all? Like, what's the official process? And then I'm sure you have to keep it a secret. Like you said, it took a summer to get to basically clear the site. And you have to keep it a secret because you don't want other people going out there and trying to steal the treasure. Then I want to talk about processing it. How do you go about selling it, or how's that process?
Yeah.
Tell me about all that.
Okay, you may have to break that back up because I'll start on a little tangent and then I'll forget some of those questions.
No
That's
problem.
what we do here. We're tangent, Jason.
I already forgot them.
Let's go. So I think addressing the first one. The Federal Admiralty Court has jurisdiction over the site, and they, as I mentioned before, give substitute custodianship to Queen's Jewels. We then subcontract through Queen's Jewels. We go out and collect whatever we collect during the course of the summer, based on our efforts, but also we do it with archaeological practice. So that means that we do a very extensive and lengthy data recording as far as the amount of information we collect about everything that we do out there every day. And that looks like the location of the artifacts, what the artifacts were, these types of things. All of that goes into a field report. We're definitely getting more granular as to what we're doing out there. But yeah. And so when we find material and that comes up, you're absolutely right. Queen's Jewels takes possession of it, and then they do all of the conservation on that material. And then that material is then shown to the Admiralty Court, and then the Admiralty Court just views the material and then gives title back to Queen's Jewels at the end of that annual process. And so Queen's Jewels, will at that point be awarded title and ownership physically of the material. And so,
do they sell it, or like does it?
And then it depends. A lot of what we do is in partnership with like that nonprofit. There's a partnership with the state of Florida, so
Oh, wow.
up to 20% of what we find goes into the state museum for posterity.
Cool.
Yep. So there's a lot of that goes on, and like you said, with the ethics of archaeology and stuff, we definitely tread that line carefully. Obviously, it costs a lot of money to do what we do, and so there is the potential of recouping some of that money from the artifacts. But all of that is it just depends on the artifact. So, yeah.
Listen, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but the state of Florida also wants me to report my tips. And guess what? It's been a bad tipping season because I'm not reporting nothing.
That's the way it is. And honestly, that stems all the way back to what we do, because these coins were likely considered contraband on these wrecks. And so even though they were very good, the Spanish were very good at their record keeping back when, and a lot of the treasure went back. A lot of the treasure that went back was registered, and a portion of it went to the king. In fact, a royal fifth is what they called it,
Yeah.
which was a 20% tax, interestingly enough. But people were doing much of the same thing and doing whatever they could to line their pockets with whatever they could. And oftentimes on these shipwrecks, there would be maybe even twice the amount of contraband than there is in registered treasure on the vessels. And it's likely that the coins that we found this summer are part of that contraband as well, that again aren't registered in any way, and just something that someone had gotten their grubby paws on in the New World, and then was smuggling it back to Spain, to improve their life.
And in this particular wreck, it was how many ships? Can you give me an idea of like how big one of these ships was? Because like when I was reading, 1,500 people, perished in the hurricane.
That's a crazy amount.
And I'm trying to wrap my tiny brain around like, okay, how many men were on one ship? Because that's not a lot of ships for a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah, there would be hundreds of people on one vessel at a time. These vessels aren't very big. I don't know if you've ever had an opportunity to tour like the Nina or the Pinta that travels around. The Christopher Columbus's ships. They made replicas and they sailed around. And
I'm more of a Santa Maria type of guy.
And then there's another
You
one
don't
called
practice Santa Maria.
Leone, and it's also a replica, and you can go on it. And I think that anybody that actually steps foot on one of those ships realizes just how horrible it had to have been back when traveling across the ocean. Yeah. And then, like you said, there may be up to 300, 400, 500 people on one of these ships. It's just, you can't even wrap your head around that in and of itself. And then, food and water is in short supply. They've got livestock and whatever else going on the boats. It was just horrible. And then you actually get in a storm, or, the doldrums, the wind's not blowing, whatever the circumstances are. I mean, it was a rough life. And it's no wonder when you hear on these ships back when, so many people died each time with the crossing. I mean, you could imagine if you were out in the sun, not much to drink, and then got seasick for like a week and just, hurled your guts out for all that time, you're probably going to be in bad shape. And now the only thing you have to even bring you back is a piece of salted meat that's just like eating a salt lick, or it's a horrible situation.
Real bad stuff. So, and then I read that they had put together like a salvaging area for the the shipwreck, and then I was reading fast, but then a bunch of other pirates figured out where the salvage area was, and then they attacked the salvage area and stole a bunch of gold and like killed everybody, right?
You're absolutely right. So early on in the conquest, obviously Christopher Columbus came over 1492. Spanish conquistadors followed him, and by the early 1500s, they were already making their way further into the Americas. Florida was discovered. Mexico was discovered, and a lot of the islands in the Caribbean and stuff. So when they did, I lost my train of thought. What did you ask me?
Oh, it's about the salvaging party being attacked by the pirates.
Correct. What wound up, I'm sorry, I was going off on a tangent, but I was going to bring it back. You're fine. The Spanish enjoyed, not a lot of competition in the New World very early on, but by 1715, they had already been over here for 200 years. If you know your history, which I'm sure you do, the Mayflower is already here. When you look at St. Augustine, just to the north, you have Mayport, the French were right there. So the French, the English, the Dutch, they were all here, and they were putting a lot of pressure on, basically the Spanish in their empire to, claim some territory for themselves. But, now you have a bunch of people over here just kind of rogue, ransacking the Spanish. And you're absolutely right. So immediately following the sinking of the 1715 fleet, the Spanish went to work to try and recover whatever they could. But, every day there's another ship on the horizon sailing by, and every once in a while those ships would come ashore and, well armed, and raid those camps where the Spanish had their recovered, treasure.
Horrible
basically.
life. This is a horrible life.
You're like, I just had some salted meat and some my morning diarrhea, which means I'm dying.
Yeah.
And then there's some ships. They're gonna come kill me with a horrible molten hot musket ball.
Yeah, exactly. People were much tougher back then than they are today.
Oh, yeah.
So Mike, real quick, like when you start, and I saw a little bit this on the news where you go about the process of now cleaning the coins.
Oh,
and
yeah.
are there some of them you leave unclean because they may be more valuable to like people that want to have or purchase this at their
True
house?
untouched
yeah,
treasure.
Yeah. Like, and then like tell us about the process of cleaning the silver coins.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Some artifacts do remain uncleaned for various reasons. Perhaps that, it's in the artifact's best interest not to be cleaned because it could further damage it. For the most part, coins kind of undergo a pretty, boilerplate standard process. And although there are various methods by which the artifacts can be conserved and cleaned, typically these coins just undergo, like I say, that general process. They're cleaned and photographed and weighed both before and after they've been cleaned, and then documented extensively in a database. That information winds up on our base maps. That information winds up with the state, again, for posterity and their records. And yeah.
And so
That's cool, man.
And then,
that is so cool.
Is any of this stuff ever sold to the open market? Are there like some auctions of people that just auction off these treasures that people find? I mean, you mentioned about like a certain percentage has to go to Florida and to like archaeology.
You should purchase a pirate.
Well, and then we've known
a pirate coin.
The the silver coin is worth more to a person than the value of the silver in like weight, right?
For sure, yeah. There's a historical value that's attached to each one of these artifacts. A good example of this is, if I gave you or showed you a shoe from the 1900s, you say, hey, that's fantastic. It's a shoe from the 1900s. I give you $5. But now all of a sudden I give you a piece of paper with that shoe that said it came off of the Titanic. Obviously that shoe's worth a lot more.
Yeah.
So it's that story that goes along with it. A great example of that also is like the Mel Fisher treasures. When you look at coinage from the time period, the Tosha that Mel Fisher found down in Key West sank in 1622. If you look at similar coins that are on the open market that, perhaps survived, 400 years being in circulation in someone's safety deposit box in Europe or whatever, those coins fetch, whatever, several $100s to several $1,000s. But now all of a sudden you attach that Mel Fisher certificate to the coin, and you have that entire legacy of Mel Fisher and the story of the shipwreck and all that goes with it. The value of that coin goes up. So for sure, if people think, just melt it all down and, whatever, that's the way to go. I mean, yeah, sure, you could, but you're just going to wind up with a bunch of metal versus like this incredible piece of history.
Yeah, I like the stamping and looking after some of the coins have been cleaned. You can see the cross on there. And there's something very eerie about looking at how that cross has been worn by either fingers or the ocean or whatever you want to call it. There's something there. It's just really neat. Really, really cool, man.
So Mike, just to give our audience an idea, because I feel like most people feel like if you are involved in a treasure finding operation, you're immediately rich beyond our wildest dreams. And obviously it's public that is the treasure was valued about $1 million. So, like, when you're involved in something like this, what does that mean for you personally? Not to get to exact numbers, but is this a huge financial windfall for you, or because of how everything's set up is like?
Are you in the hole? Does your wife hate this?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is like a glorified hobby is what we're doing out there. I mean, the amount of time and money and effort that we spend in it, if you were to, hand that over to an accountant and look at your balance sheet, you're probably losing money. So that's just the reality of this. Certainly, there's always the possibility of, just striking it rich, but there's been only a handful of people, I would say, in modern day history, and especially with shipwrecks, that have actually, had that level of success. And it didn't happen overnight. I mean, like the Mel Fisher story. I mean, he just alone in the Atocha was down there for 15 years looking for it. He lost his son and daughter-in-law. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of sacrifice that went into that. So, what we're doing, we do it for the passion of doing it. I certainly started thinking I was going to get rich quick, and that is certainly not the case. So now it's kind of evolved into something a little bit, I would say, just more colorful for me.
Yeah.
But
you love it, right? I mean, it seems like you do. Yeah, I can tell the way you talk about it, and it's really cool to see you nerd out a little bit about something that's your dream. Like, we've been talking to a lot of people this week that are accomplishing their dreams, not to get inspirational here at the end, but this is cool to see somebody that's actually doing it. Not everything has to be about a financial windfall. Maybe it has to be about just having your mind in a good space and doing something you truly love, man.
Let's get inspirational, man. I'm about it. No, I mean, yeah, do what you love doing. I mean, it's not, how life is short and it's not all about money, right? So, like, yeah, absolutely.
I'm finding that out. Yeah.
So my
doesn't mean you're not going to struggle, but
does it bum you out? Because I'm I like math, and I would say to myself, well, this is a once in a lifetime find, and I bet I'm never going to find another treasure.
So you're saying you'd quit. So you would quit after 5.
Well, it's just like
Are you trying to convince him to quit?
The likelihood of me finding another treasure, I mean, it was unlikely the first time, so finding another one's like Mel Fisher didn't find another one.
But now you know how to do it.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I'd say there's two things. One, when you find a piece of gold in the ocean that belongs to a period shipwreck, it gets inside your blood, and then when you go back to your 9-to-5 job or whatever, it doesn't ever really compare.
You got the fever. He's got the fever.
And two, I would say that that would probably be the difference between a guy like myself who has lost his mind and your average sane person, because this has just become what I do. And so, for better or for worse, when we're finding and we're not, we've got an expression: you can't find it at the dock. So we go whenever we can. So,
unless you're talking fentanyl, and you can't find that at the dock.
Well, you're out on the water, you're diving, like it's a pretty good day.
This is my favorite we've done, man. I'm telling you, we've done a lot of weird jobs, but damn, treasure hunter, top tier.
Yeah, I like being out in the water, scuba diving. Like, if you're doing that every day for your job, you already won there, I think.
Yeah,
you guys are certified, man. Next summer when we get fired up, come on out.
Oh yeah,
hey, well, listen, I'll take you up on that, man, for sure.
I'll start stuffing silver coins in my wetsuit. I'm definitely gonna steal from you.
Why do you look so fat? Like this guy's gained 40 pounds.
We're tough, man. We've shake you down. I tell you what, you could do the broadcast from the back deck while we're working.
Dude, we could do a live from a treasure hunting boat.
It's so obvious.
I'll stuff them somewhere you can find them.
And then I'll get that needle. We'll get the douche needle.
The callback on the Gleister for sure.
Mike, thanks so much for talking to us today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and shout out to Austin Daly for setting this up.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. Hey, let's do it again sometime. And honestly, let us know when you fire it back up. We'd love to talk to you again. Okay?
You got my number. Give me a shout next summer. We're going to be going, and if we find something, I'll give you a ring. Well, we'll do this again.
You got it, man. Thank you again for the time. Have a great weekend. See you, man.
All right.
Oh, wow, that was a goodie.
We will see you tomorrow.
All right, we did it. Woo. Right. It all held together. All right, that was a good one. All right, guys, I'm going to turn all this off. Or, I guess I should.
Yeah.